One of the best pieces of advice I was ever given: don't look at people as the enemy, look at people as the opportunity. Probably the most relevant dynamic of that for us right now is politics. You're on the other side of the political spectrum, it's very easy to just naturally hate somebody. I hate that person, they're my enemy. If you look at people as the opportunity, it gives you the opportunity to get to know someone. And when you get to know somebody, it makes it hard to hate somebody. And so that was a very valuable thing that I was given. Spend time getting to know someone. Hear about their childhood, what their life experience has been like that has resulted in their outlook. That would be huge for all of us.
Let's get into it. First, I want to talk about skateboarding. So tell us about the skateboarding career. And then really what I'd love to learn more about is what was that transition like, going from like being an X game athlete, like a pro skateboarder? What was that transition like into business? And what were some of those early days like? So kick off with skateboarding. How did you get into it? How long was the career? And what was that moment for you where you realized that like, this is time for me to now switch?
Okay, so being a pro skateboarder was great. It was a very fun lifestyle. In the beginning, I never really had an intention to be a pro skateboarder. I just fell in love with skateboarding. And I was kind of getting to that age where I was getting pressure from my parents to get a job. And I just wasn't ready to stop skating. And so originally, I tried to figure out a way to supplement income from a job and get free product from companies so that I wouldn't have to pay for skateboarding, basically items. And I convinced my parents that like if I was able to pull this off, they'd be okay with that. So they said yes. And so I convinced a friend of mine who had a video camera to basically film a promo video of myself, 3-minute long, me doing like my best tricks, send it out to all these companies, and eventually got a handful of companies to sponsor me. And so each month I would get free product. I would get shoes, I would get clothes, I would get skateboards, and I would use what I needed and then I would sell the rest. And that was kind of my hack to not have to work. And that bought me about 2 years because that's when I was going to graduate high school. And in that 2-year interim, some of those sponsors started, giving myself ads in magazines, and they were kind of starting to use and highlight my name. And then the summer in which I was going to graduate, there was an opportunity for me to go to Europe for like my first like European skate tour. And so my original plan is I was going to go be a pro skateboarder for a few years and kind of have fun, enjoy it, get it out of my system. And then I was going to go back to college. That was kind of my original outlook, mainly because skateboarding was so small. It wasn't really something that you could really do for a career. And then in that 3 years, the skateboard industry just blew up. It exploded. My career went kind of vertical, started making good money. And I started seeing skateboarding as maybe more of a longer opportunity than I originally thought, which ended up turning into like a 14-year skate career, which is wild. And it was cool. It was like, I was gone 6 months of the year. I've traveled the world so many times. I've lost track with, what the number actually is. I saw a lot of culture. It was cool. I learned a lot from being a pro skateboarder. But kind of the last question you asked, and which is a pain point and challenge for athletes, is what do we do afterward? And it's kind of something that most of us don't want to prepare for because it seems dark and it's pretty scary for us. And so most people avoid it. I was so scared about what life afterward was going to look like that I like ultra planned. And so I was doing things like, living off basically none of my income. I was putting it into investments that I felt like would be there for me when my career ended. A lot of appreciation opportunities, cash flow opportunities. And then towards the kind of last quarter of my career, I started my first company. And so I left it, and it kind of my outlook was, if I've got 3 years left of being a pro skateboarder, that means I've got some income coming in. That would be a great time to try to launch something because I have some buffer to get it moving, as opposed to jumping in the deep end, having no income and having to pull it off on a quick timeline. And so I went for it. And then I started my first business.
It's amazing. How old were you at this point?
When I started my first business, I was 29.
Yeah, so let's say you're mid 20s and your brain is already going into like, hold on a second, I got to think about what's next. And I just want to come back to your story. So you said like you're in high school and you start filming these videos of yourself, right? Like doing your best tricks, sending them out to sponsors. Like there's a lot of like natural entrepreneurship there. There's a lot of like, let's take action and let's sort of, film something, let's put it out there. And I think in the world today, one of the major problems is people don't act, right? They kind of sit and they wait and they expect. And it's a really interesting beginning for you, which was you really took charge of your career without even knowing that there was going to be a career, right? There was intention behind that. And even when you were sort of retiring or you knew there was a retirement, which is 3-4 years out, like, hold on a second, let's start taking this income and start investing it. Most people don't think that way. Where does this all come from? Like, were you raised by amazing financial acumen parents, or was this just more like, like, fuck, I gotta just do this?
It was kind of a combination of it was a little of all of it, almost like the perfect storm. Like the first part myself, like I'm a goal oriented person. Like I like setting goals and I have fun trying to reach them. So that at least brought out the action in, okay, I'm going to go for this. I'm going all the way in. At that time, I didn't have I wasn't financially savvy. My parents didn't really talk to me much about money. But my dad gave me a very good example, at least visually, on how money should be viewed. Like my dad was never emotional with money. You never saw him get hyped up or the opposite extreme if something went wrong. He was just even keel about money, had a rental property when we were kids. And so I think just seeing that naturally gave me the outlook that money is only a tool, nothing more, nothing less. And then when I decided not to go to college, my parents were not comfortable with it. And even for me, like I was a little bit concerned about not going to school because at that time, if you didn't go to school, you were kind of not going to be anything. That's like what they told you. And so I had this kind of vision of what my life was going to look like. And I always thought I would be successful and making good money and having kids and providing, etc. And I was a little bit concerned that if I was choosing the skateboarding path, then I was kind of potentially damaging my future. And so my parents actually advised me to get help financially, to go get a financial advisor. And where I lucked out, this was not my doing. I had somebody who was a financial advisor who I didn't make enough money for him to take me on. I was making nothing. And he brought me in and then worked with me. He really spent a lot of time teaching me about credit, teaching me how to create a budget, and then probably most importantly, how to line up investments that align with your purposes, right? Like my purpose was skateboarding is going to end in potentially 10 years. What type of investments do I need to be there for that goal? And then we started investing accordingly. So actually having a plan and then picking the assets according to that plan, huge for me. So I think with all that to say, I had great guidance. I'm somebody who wants to succeed. I'm a little bit obsessed when I put my mind to it. And then probably the last component being scared of what the future was going to look like. That was all I needed to really, really take it seriously.
And very lucky, the universe presented you this sort of opportunity to be mentored and guided by someone that was going to teach you money. I didn't learn money until my father passed and I ended up taking over the business. And now this was the first time I'm like reading a P&L, understanding budgets. And I'm like, I mean, what do you do with this? And the first thing I did was hire a coach. I'm like, someone's got to teach me how to run a P&L, run a business. Like, you kind of get it from afar, but like there's an intricacy to this. There's a detail to it. So very cool. Is this financial advisor still around in your life?
He is. Yeah, still a very close friend of mine. He's actually a partner in my business today.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So you could say this is all to him, right? So
yeah, a lot of it is. Absolutely.
I mean, I think there's two key messages that you sent there, which is the importance of having mentorship and guidance, right? And to be vulnerable enough to accept it. And number two, learn money, because it doesn't matter whether you're a skateboarder, whether you're running a private equity firm or, an insurance company, you got to understand money. And in the absence of understanding money, you're not going to be able to make the right decisions.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah. Let's go to the transition because, I speak to a lot of athletes. You're an ex-pro athlete. Most athletes, as you know, have a very difficult time transitioning, right? Like, what am I going to do when I grow up? So, what was that transition like for you? And if you were to give advice to someone that is transitioning, not just from an athlete to maybe a career, but just in life, what are some things that can go into that exercise, thinking about, practicing, focusing on, et cetera, et cetera?
Okay. I would say for me, the transition was difficult. It was not easy. The things I wrestled with, one, my identity was me being a pro skateboarder. And so when I was no longer a pro skateboarder, I didn't feel like I knew who I was anymore. I didn't feel like I was special or important, or like the value that I perceived I had kind of felt lost. And that can be pretty darkening. It really does kind of feel like the lights have gone out. Or maybe a better way to say it is, I knew I had a skill set. I just no longer knew the game I was playing and didn't even know how to apply the skills anymore. And that's almost more frustrating than not even having skills to begin with. So that was tough for me. It took time to, I think, build myself back up and kind of, I think, truly align my identity so that it couldn't be stripped from me again. That would be one. The second one, when you succeed at something, you get used to things being done for you. You get used to doors being open. You get used to people introducing themselves to you, right? Things do get easier once you've gotten to a certain level. And what I think every athlete needs to be prepared for is when you step into the next category, you are not what you were. You are something new now, and you have to start at the beginning. So you have to go through a lot of those exercises that you almost feel like you shouldn't have to do. Go to events and actually go up to people you don't know and introduce yourself. Tell people what you're doing. You just got to remember you're starting on the first floor. It will be faster for you to get back up to maybe the 8th or 9th floor, but you're not starting again at the 9th floor. A lot of people fail when they step into a new industry expecting for them to be the man or the girl, and then they're not yet. They have no reputation. They have no experience. They have no success in that new category. And the second you act like you do, it's a false front. It's going to be a rude awakening. So humble yourself when you step into the new thing.
Yeah. I think what you just described there, which is the identity piece, that's probably the most difficult, right? Which is, how do I redefine not just my purpose, but redefine myself, right? Like, how do you present yourself? And this is where people fall victim to the imposter syndrome. And I say they fall victim to the imposter syndrome because they use it as a throwaway line, which is fake it until you make it, or just lean into the imposter syndrome. But it's a real effect. It's a real and emotional effect. So, tell me about real estate. Sort of what drew you to real estate? Why did you go down this direction?
Okay, so before I started this company, I started investing in storage units as just an investment while I was skateboarding to, kind of be there with some cash flow and some appreciation when I was skating. And when I started my first business in the craft beer industry, it was really high risk. Like, part of our pitch to our friends and family were, there's a really good chance we're losing your money. And so only give us the amount that you're comfortable losing, right? There was probably a higher probability that we lost it than we made money. Now, we had the opposite experience. We were incredibly successful. We had a massive exit. Our investors made a lot of money. So that was good. But when I thought about what I wanted to do next post the last exit, I wanted to create a company that kind of offered what my financial advisor did for me when I was a kid, which was he gave me education. He empowered me so that I knew what I wanted to do. And then he also helped me find opportunity. So I kind of wanted to create a company that did both. I wanted there to be an educational aspect to it. And then I wanted there to be an investment vehicle so that people could invest alongside myself. And I thought commercial real estate, at that time, it was actually just multifamily apartments. I thought that was a great investment for skateboarders. That's actually who I was originally thinking of. And then when I got closer to launching it, I kind of broadened the investor base and originally made it for almost all athletes. And then I started finding more conventional careers that actually plugged into I think, athlete outlook. If you're in sales, you're used to making money, but the thing starts over every single year and you're just running this hamster wheel to support your life and it's hard to get off it. So, that ended up growing our avatar. Then it went into business owners. And now we have, our investors, we have over 600 and they're all over the board. Actors, we have YouTubers, golfers. It's pretty cool what it's become. But it was more an asset that I felt very comfortable being there for all of my friends, family, and then beyond.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's it like getting investors? Or let's say like let's say it's me. Like I want to launch some sort of commercial real estate project. Maybe I don't want to create a private equity firm right off the bat, right? But it's something I want to do. Maybe a little more simple. Like I'm in Costa Rica. I'm doing some sort of I'm doing a couple spec homes, right? And sort of the potential for this. What we're thinking is, reach out to investors. Where do you even begin with this stuff? Like, how do you approach people? How do you reach out and say, hey, do you want to give me money for this project that I've got going on?
Yeah, there are a lot of ways you can do it. In the beginning, when you have no experience, that is the hardest time to raise money. And so when we did our first business, because we had no experience, we brought it to friends and family. We brought it to people who knew our character, knew that I was resilient, that I was goal oriented, that I hated failing. And so we felt like they would believe in us prior to having experience. And so that's where our first kind of capital source came from. And then as you do more, it kind of broadens. But to answer your question, in the beginning, if you're just doing a spec home, you don't need, 400 investors. You can do that with a handful of them, 3 or 4. And so what are the different ways of finding them? I think one of the best hacks that anybody could do, whether it's looking for investors or even opportunity, send out a text message to every single person in your phone, right? Go through the whole entire list. Send a message saying, hey, Mikey, it's Greg. I don't know if you know this, but I just got into real estate. I have a phenomenal opportunity in front of me. Is there anybody that you know that is looking for a good real estate investment? And kind of the magic of that is if you have 1,000, people in your contacts, and let's just say everyone's going to hit you back. They're not going to, but if everyone did, they're going to respond with, oh yeah, I've got 2 people. And why didn't you just ask me? I'm interested too. So you now have the opportunity of tripling your basically leads. It's a really good method. I use social media to find a lot of investors. And basically how I present it is I have a great opportunity that I'm putting my time, energy, and money into. And if I really believe in it, I want more people to have that opportunity as well. So, how I present it is if they're a friend of mine, great. I have a new one. It's insane. 88 units in Ventura, overlooks the water, low leverage, great return. Let me know if you're investing right now. If you are, I got to get this over to you. And then, I send them the information and then we basically break it down. If it's social media, I think it's good to probably focus on either bringing people along the journey. So create content around you trying to get the project, putting in offers, maybe getting it under contract, film yourself doing the due diligence. And if you're kind of showcasing the story, it makes it easy for people to feel like they're walking alongside it with you. And then people naturally want you to win. They're vested. And then it basically opens the door for investment. Or if you really know how to do it, you have the opportunity to educate people. You can kind of become the expert in it. And that is naturally another opportunity to create leads.
I like what you said, the first one, which is like send text messages out to everyone in your contact list. I think we all have probably 900 or 1,000 people. Now, probably don't talk to 900 of them, but we definitely have logged all of those numbers over the years. And yeah, that cold call, that outreach, I mean, it's one of the most fundamental ways to be successful in business. And in fact, you'll know this as an entrepreneur, whether you're raising funds or you're trying to sort of create partnerships or, get suppliers and vendors on partners on board with you. It all begins with that, in quotations, cold call. We don't call them cold calls anymore, but once upon a time, you had to pick up the phone and call a stranger and be like, "Hey, can I beg and borrow you for 2 minutes?" And you did your pitch, right? And it almost became like a little bit of a numbers game at that point, which was like, how do we just sort of keep the message going out? And if you stay with that tenacity, you stay with that consistency, something's going to happen, right? Let's flip the question. So what do you think investors are looking for? Like when you're going out, like, what are some of the key things that you're being asked when it comes down to these projects and investments?
Usually investors are either looking for one of three things. They want cash flow and they're extremely focused on cash flow. Others want all wealth build, so appreciation. And then others want a combination of the two, right? So that's kind of your landscape on what type of return are you providing for them. And then in that, there's different ways to basically succeed in real estate. You can buy something that's existing, stabilize, more turnkey, risk off, return low. And then you have the opportunity to do a little value add or a deep value add or all the way to what we do, which is find something that's distressed, scrape it and build something new. I would say for investors that are more sophisticated, they want to see more or less accurate metrics and modeling based on a certain demographic, right? So they want to see if they're looking at multifamily, the first thing they're asking themselves, is there demand for this product? If we're going to add 200 units to the market, will it be absorbed? Will it be leased out? And will we get the rents that we need? And so they're typically looking for a handful of things. Is there population growth in the market? Are there more people coming in than there are leaving? They're looking at who the major employers are. It's a big one. They're looking at the average or medium income levels to find out if that can support the rents. They're looking at existing apartments that are currently up, and they're looking at their occupancy rates. They're looking at what rents have historically done, if they've had to give rent concessions to lease up or rent growth has happened. And then I would say the last thing is they're looking into the cities and seeing what the cities are planning on building in front of them. So how many projects are in queue and who are we competing with when we bring this up? And then if all of that checks off, which basically means you have a good deal, the next thing they're looking at is us. They're underwriting us. Who are these guys? What's their experience? Do they know what they're doing? And they're ultimately making the decision is this group capable of bringing this project forward to succeed? So that's probably like a real quick flyover.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And as you were talking, I was thinking about like you're in the US, so not all states are going to meet that criteria. So right now, 2024, we're July, August. What states would you suggest looking at that are meeting those metrics and that criteria?
Okay, so there's what the masses do, and then there's what I do.
Well,
and
this
they
is
are
why
not
we're
the same.
speaking to Mikey, right? I want to know what Mikey does.
Yeah. So look, I am a contrarian thinker. I do not like doing what everyone else is doing. I don't think that's comfortable. I get very uncomfortable running with the pack. And so, what we've seen over the last few years, and even now, a lot of dollars going into the Sun Belt states and the Midwest, into these markets that were very easy to build. We actually invest in markets that are very difficult to build. Right now, we are entirely focused on Southern California. So if you say I invest in California,
why are you interested in the difficult market versus that sort of Midwest market?
Because a couple reasons. One, I think there's no opportunity when you're looking around and every single other person on this planet is doing the same thing as you. I think opportunity is gone. I think it feels comfortable. I think there's no return. So I naturally look in areas that they're all running from. A lot of people run from California. Why? Regulation is insane. There's so much regulation here. It's difficult to build. Because it's difficult to build, it's expensive. So now you have a high barrier to entry because of capital, and regulation does not incentivize investors to come in, right? The politics, there's a lot of people that do not like the politics of this state. It is not landlord friendly. It's tenant friendly, or at least that's the message communicated to the rest of the nation. So I naturally looked at that and went, okay, I don't like any of those things as well. But where's the opportunity? Where is the opportunity that everybody's running from? And how we look at it is, okay, because it's so difficult to build here, and because the state has scared off all of these investors, no one's building housing. And they haven't been building housing for the last 13 years. So what has that done? It's created the most extreme housing crisis our state has ever seen. And so the experience in California, if you're trying to sell a home, even with interest rates north of 7.5%, I mean, in my area, it's like 5 to 10 offers on every single home. If you're renting something, it's 5 to 6, potentially 10 applications to rent a unit. It's crazy. When you're in that environment, rents go up and value goes up. That's how supply and demand works. And so I looked at it and went, okay, the state is keeping my competition out for me. If you can get new projects online here, and that's a big if, investing in California is a beast in itself. But if you can do it, what happens is your units rent up very quick, rent continues to go up, and you end up making more money than a lot of the other states. So that's kind of why we're doing it. And that has been our experience. It's like we're seeing rent growth while all those Midwest and Sunbelt states are seeing rent concessions and pausing distributions.
As you're talking, I'm thinking about the alignment between you standing on top of like a ramp, right? Ready to drop, and like dropping into California. Like it takes balls to be like, all right, let's go, right? Like let's drop into this, right? And then you take the ride. Toronto's like this as well. Toronto and California, Ontario, Canada, similar to the state of California. And very renter friendly, like tenant friendly and not landlord friendly, unless it's commercial. And a lot of demand on places. Like you're getting multiple offers for rent, for renting a place. In fact, I moved to Costa Rica and I was going to end up renting a condo back in Toronto. Anyway, fast forward this, like, they were like, yeah, no, we're going to deny you. I'm like, the F, what? They're like, we just don't like the fact that you live in Costa Rica. I'm like, are you out of your mind? I'm like, they're like, yeah, we're going to go with someone else. I'm like, this once upon a time would have never have happened, right?
Right.
Yeah, and
that's right.
And it's difficult to build in Toronto as well, right? Same type of regulatory sort of restrictions in some capacity.
Right. That's right.
Okay, so thinking about moving forward when it comes down to real estate, you're heavily sort of focused in more of the commercial. You're moving on into multifamily. Where do you see good investment? Is it still kind of the mix match where like you could go multifamily, you could go commercial, or if you were to advise someone who is getting into real estate right now, where would you tell them to sort of cut their teeth?
Yeah, I would say cut your teeth where you're going to actually do it, right? A lot of people like dream of what they want to do and they want to get into multifamily, but it feels like a big step so that they never get in. Don't do that. Just do whatever will get you to take a step forward. That's a single family flip, go do a single family flip. If it's an Airbnb, go do an Airbnb. If you feel comfortable with an apartment, go do an apartment. Whatever it takes for you to start, do that. As far as the opportunity goes, I personally think multifamily is the greatest opportunity that I've seen in real estate since I started investing. There are just to really kind of call it out is we did not build as a nation post the financial crisis. We've done a terrible job building. And so in that, you now have the opportunity to create supply when there's a deficit. I think that's a huge opportunity in itself. Now, office, I don't think there's an opportunity right now. I don't see an opportunity coming in the near future. Office seems like a time bomb that has exploded, and I just don't see it out. Retail, I actually think there's an argument for retail being a decent investment right now. I love storage. Storage is a little bit saturated, so everybody knows. And then industrial, I like industrial. I think there's an opportunity in all of them. It really just comes down to how disciplined are you going to be on your buying, and are you willing to put in offers that you're not going to get until you eventually getting one, and then can you act? You can succeed in any asset class, even office, if you're disciplined.
Right. Listen, my family made their money in real estate. I learned from a very young age that you buy one house and you fix it up and you sell it, and then you buy two and you fix both of them up and you flip the one and you live in the one. And I appreciate sort of the way to create generational wealth through real estate, right? It's someone once said to me, they said, the one thing the world's not building anything more of is land. And the more you get into land, the better.
I always like that too.
Right. Tell me about entrepreneurship. What is it like running a business? What's it like building a business? What are some of the lessons that you've experienced along the way, that if someone was to not maybe just get into real estate investment, but they want to start a business, they want to start to, build something, what advice would you give them?
It's brutal. It's hard. It's exhausting, and you're going to work more than your normal 9 to 5 as an employee. So just don't go into it with rosy colored glasses that you'll have this lifestyle where you just get to travel and be an influencer. That is not business. But it's amazing at the same time. So I would say this: if you have an idea of something you want to do, you have to be willing to put the next 5 years of just brutal work into it. Things do not happen overnight. It usually takes 5 years for anyone to even know who you are. And then you usually have the opportunity to start growing. So you got to be committed and be long-term. When it comes to growing, and I think this is probably the hardest stage of entrepreneurship, is in the beginning, it's just you. You're a solopreneur. And all the money that comes in that you don't spend, you get to take. And it's really easy for you to create a one man or one woman business that gives you a pretty good lifestyle. The hard part is you become a slave to the business you created. And so what's really important is the second that you can bring on help, bring on help. Do that before you increase your lifestyle, because you ultimately have to create a team and a system so that this business can run without you. That's what gives you some freedom. And so, if you're more of a visionary, this is kind of my model. I'm a visionary guy. I'm an idea guy. I'm a people person. I'm a networking guy. I'm not an operator. So an operator is the very first person I bring on. And then we start bringing on a team, around that. Do that. Definitely do that. As far as, scaling and building, I would say one of the most important things that I heard, learned, and have utilized is take a long time hiring. Don't hire somebody off first glance. Have multiple meetings with them. Get to know them. Make sure they are good for your business. And when you get somebody who's not, you have to let them go quickly. Don't wait. Don't let it go out year, 2 years. You're doing you a disservice and you're doing them a disservice. I think that's the thing that we always forget. We don't want to hurt somebody's feelings because truthfully, it sucks letting somebody go. But if somebody is in a position where they are not able to excel, you are now doing them a disservice and you're now jeopardizing their future by keeping them around. So give them the opportunity to go excel somewhere else. That's been big. And then tracking the group and making sure there's accountability. That's always big when it comes down to business.
Great advice. I think everyone wants to start a business and be an entrepreneur and do their hustle, but they don't realize, that's what you just described, that you're going to be a slave to it for the first few years more than anyone else. You're going to have to make sacrifices, like instead of lifestyle, you're going to have to sort of make the better business decision by replacing yourself and bringing on that team. Really sucks to fire people. I am guilty of that. I have kept people on for way too long versus having that difficult conversation. And sometimes it's the conversation of like, hey, we got to improve performance, right? But we avoid that conversation, and then we get to a stage that you need to let them go, and you avoid that conversation. It's detrimental to the business and yourself as a leader. So even the best of us suffer with those types of conversations, right? Sport. I know you're a golfer. I don't know if you're a good golfer or a half decent golfer. How would you describe yourself as a golfer?
I'm better than most. But I am far from being like a scratch golfer.
Okay.
I enjoy golf. I'm competitive, so I'm not going to do anything that I can't ultimately become good at. I'm pretty good.
Well, I was
I'm
going
pretty
to
good.
ask you, how important is your golf game to business?
Oh, it's actually huge. I just did a video on this talking about how uh, people are putting their handicap on their resume and recruiters are asking them to because golf has become such a valuable skill set to many different components of a business. But for me, um, we've had a lot of investors end up coming into our investments because of golf. You get 4 to 5 hours with somebody. I mean, it's brilliant when you think about it, right? Like, let's just say I have a new investment. I'm trying to get in front of somebody and tell them about it. If they're being generous, I've got 20 minutes of their time, right? And then you have to follow up with them. No one's making a decision in 20 minutes. So it's challenging. If you're good at golf, you all of a sudden get 5 hours with somebody. Now you're building a relationship. And I think one of the most important aspects of golf is it's such a good character gauge, right? You get to see how somebody wins. You get to see what somebody does when they're struggling. You get to see if they're cheating, right? Are they dropping balls when you're not watching? It is massive for that. When it comes to investing and even doing business, but investing more so, investing is about trust, right? It's hard for us to make money. It takes a lot of our time, sacrifice to do it. And so if you're going to entrust someone else with your money, you got to really trust them. And then when it comes down to doing business with people, most successful businesses do business with people they like. And so that is your opportunity to build a relationship and grow your network of people that want to do business with you.
Super, super, super true. I learned that a long time ago, which is you can tell someone's character by how they play golf, right?
Yeah,
Are they dropping
that's right.
balls? Are they cheating? Are they throwing clubs? Right. So
Yep.
and the other side of that coin is you get 4 to 5 hours of committed time. I mean, it's probably the most valuable thing we can ask from someone is their time.
Yep.
Do you play pickleball?
Uh, I have played pickleball. Probably not accurate to say I play
Because
pickleball.
I'm leading up to something. So the latest stat right now is pickleball is taking over golf when it comes down to the business conversation. So instead of people going out and playing golf, people are going to play pickleball. So golf is an important game, but
I didn't
pickleball,
know that.
I just heard this today.
Interesting.
Yeah, right.
I wouldn't have expected that. The only reason I wouldn't expect it is because so much of a golf round is not you hitting the ball; it's you sitting in a cart with
Correct,
somebody,
chatting away.
right? Where
Exactly.
pickleball, it's action, isn't it?
It's action, but I guess you get the before, the
Ah,
playing, the after. So I think to the audience out there, get good at your golf game, but don't leave
ah.
pickleball too far behind.
Look, anyone can be good at pickleball. Not everyone can be good at golf.
This
So
is true,
if golf
actually.
you just are struggling with, go pick up a pickleball racket.
This is true. This is true. That's the joke. You seen the Robin Williams skit about golf?
No,
You've never seen this? Okay, I'm going to send it to you. But for
no.
the audience, Robin Williams does this stand-up comedy routine, and he talks about the game of golf. He talks about the people that invented it, and he's definitely toed up, and he's chatting away, and he talks about he's like, why do they call it a stroke? And he's like, because every time you hit the ball, you feel like you're about to have a stroke. And we're going to do this 18 times over 18 holes. I have to send this to you. It's super, super funny.
Oh,
Right? In fact, you could
please
send it
send it.
out to
That's
your
good.
clients. I totally will.
That's good.
All right. Listen, at the end of the episode, before we get here, let's drop some of your links. So if people wanted to, because you take investors on, so if people were interested in becoming part of your investments and looking into your private equity firm and learning more about Mikey Taylor, how do they find out more information about the company and where could they get in touch with you?
Okay, so if you are on Instagram, you can go to my channel. It's just Mikey Taylor, and you can DM me the word invest. Software is going to pop up. You put your information in. We'll get our offerings out to you so you can check them out. If you want to just check out the firm overview, the company is called Commune Capital. The website is www.communecapital.com. And then we are on all the social platforms, Commune Capital. And then myself, I'm on every platform as well. It's put in my name. I'm typically at the top. So you'll be able to find me, shoot me a message, and we can connect there.
Amazing. Amazing. For the audience, we're going to have all of his links and website in the show notes as well. So if you didn't capture that right away, go ahead and look at those show notes and you click away. By the way, what kind of clubs do you play with?
I play TaylorMade
Atta boy, I was hoping you were going to say
P790s. Yeah.
tailor-made. Mikey Taylor. I was hoping you were going to say
P790s. Yeah.
tailor-made. Mikey Taylor has to be playing with tailor-mades.
I'm
100.
a brand type of person. You know what I'm saying?
I got you. I got you. In fact, you should reach out to TaylorMade and be like, listen, we need a set of Mikey clubs.
I'm working on it.
Yeah.
I am working on it.
You keep working, keep going. At the end of the episode, we come to the most important question, which is, what do you think we could all do to be better humans tomorrow? And I'm going to add better investors.
One of the best pieces of advice I was ever given that I think if we all used, we would have a better world, which is don't look at people as the enemy, look at people as the opportunity. Probably the most relevant dynamic of that for us right now is politics, right? If you're on the other side of the political, spectrum, it's very easy to just naturally hate somebody. I hate that person. They're my enemy. If you look at people as the opportunity, it gives you the opportunity to get to know someone. And when you get to know somebody, it makes it hard to hate somebody. And so that was a very valuable thing that I was given. Spend time getting to know someone, hear about their childhood, what their life experience has been like that has resulted in their outlook. That would be huge for all of us. From an investor standpoint, gosh, the magic is in the nuance. So spend time talking. Don't just blow over it. Don't be stuck on hooks and short form content. Have long form conversation with people and go in depth. Don't dive into the weeds. Don't be scared of that.
That's great advice and great answer. Love it. And just to reinforce what you're talking about, so important to lean into dialogue. It's through dialogue that we create understanding. Amazing. To the audience, if you like today's episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Go and follow Mikey Taylor on Instagram and all the other platforms. If you're interested in learning more about some real estate investment, Commune Capital, which we're going to have in the show notes. But Mikey, thanks for being here, brother.
Thanks for having me. It's good seeing you.
You too. All right. To the audience, we'll see you next week.